welcome back to Mrs. Riley's Maths videos. We're looking at statistics. We've been looking at averages, mean, median and mode, and now we're looking at frequency tables. Okay, so here is a set of numbers. These numbers are the number of children in each of 20 families. So this family had 1 child, this one had 3 children, this one had 4 children, and so on. And we've been given the data like that. Now, if we were to calculate the mean, median and mode of this data, as you know, for the mean, we would add it all up and divide by 20. Okay. If we were to do the median, we'd have to rank it and find the middle person, and if we were to find the mode, we'd be looking for the most common. Okay, now obviously the more data you have, the more difficult that becomes. So ranking data even with 20 pieces of data is quite a lot to do, and often we want to get the data into a form that is easier to use. So to do that, as data gets more and more and more in higher in number, what we do is we create what's called a frequency table. So frequency, as you know, means how often something happens. So the frequency of buses arriving means how often do buses arrive at that bus stop, how often something happens. The frequency with which you're late to class means how many times a week are you late to class, or whatever. So a frequency table records how often a particular variable or a particular thing happens. So let's just draw a table. The frequency table usually just has 2 rows like that, and the top row usually refers to, always refers to the thing we're counting. So this is number of children, and if we gave that a letter, we'd call it X. Okay, it's the variable, it's the thing that we're counting. And then the frequency is how often that thing happens. So if I put 1 in here, the frequency of 1 would be how many families had 1 child. 2 means how many families had 2 children, how many families had 3 children, 4 children, 5 children, 6 children, and 7 children. Okay, so there's my table. This is the thing we're counting, and this is how many of each of those happened. Okay, so looking at my data, there's 1, 2, there's 2 ones, and I might even want to put a line through those. Okay, 2s, there's 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. There's 4 2s. There's 1, 2, 3, 4. There's 4 3s. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 4s. There is 1 5. Yep, 1 5, 2 6s, and 1 7. Now you remember I said that there were 20 families, so there should be 20 pieces of data here. So 2 plus 4 is 6, plus 4 is 10, and 6 is 16, 1 is 17, and 2 is 19, and 1 is 20. So there are 20 families. That's okay. Okay, now we're going to look at how do we find the mean, the median and the mode using this frequency table. Okay, so let's start with the mean. If you notice, when we had this data up here, what we would have done to find the mean is we would have added, so in the old way, we would have added 1 plus this one plus the 2, and the 2, and the 2. Now obviously we wouldn't have put them in order to add, but effectively by adding all these up, we are adding the 2 1s, the 4 2s, the 1 2 3 4 3s, and so on. Okay, now we wouldn't have done it that way because we wouldn't have bothered to put it in order to add them up, but you know, that's what we were doing. We were adding them all up. So what we're doing here is our table tells us how we're going to do it now, in that we still have 2 1s. It's just that they're in a table differently. Here they were here and here, but in our table there's 2 of them and there's 1. So if I were to add those 2 1s together, I'd still get 1 plus 1, which is 2. And if I was to add these 2s together, this 2, this 2, this 2, and this 2, there's 4 of them, each of 2. So it'd be 4 by 2 would be 8 if I added them up. And for the 3s, there's 4 3s. And for the 4s, there's 6 of those. and for the 5s there's 1 of those, and for the 6s there's 2 of those, and for the 7s there's 1 of those. So I would still have 2 1s, 4 2s, 3 3s, 6 4s, 1 5, 2 6s, and 1 7, which is what I would have had if I'd added them up here. In other words, what we're doing is we're multiplying this by this, 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 and this by this, and adding them all together. In fact, there's a formula that says it's the sum of, that symbol means sum of, the frequency multiplied by the x, the frequency multiplied by the x, divided by, well, what did we divide it by? We divided by 20 families. We've seen that the frequency adds up to 20, so divided by the sum of the frequencies. So that's our formula. For those of you who like formulas, that's our formulas. The mean is going to be the sum of, in other words, we add up the frequency times x, so how many ones we had multiplied by its frequency, so 2 times 1 plus 4 times 2 plus 4 times 3 plus 6 and so on, and then we divide by the sum of the frequency, so how many families did we have? So in this case we divide by 20, and if we do that, we can do it on our calculator, I suppose. So that's going to be 2, but you know what, I'm going to just do it in my head, it's probably easier. 2 plus 8 plus 12 plus 24 plus 5 plus 12 plus 7 all over 20, which is going to be 22, 46, 51, and 19 is 70 divided by 20, which is 3.5 children. Now obviously that doesn't make that doesn't make practical sense. You can't have 3.5 children in a family, but that's all right. It's the mean, it's the average. And I would have got that had I added up all these numbers here and divided by 20. I'm getting the same answer. It's just a different way of doing it. Okay, so that's the mean. What about the median? Well, the median is the score of the middle person. So the score of the middle person. So looking at this here, there are 20 families here. Okay, so in this, basically in this case, it's the number of children in the middle family, isn't it? If I was to line up all those families according to the number of children in them, I'd go for the middle family. Now, there's 20 families, so I'm looking for 20 families, so I'm looking for, let's see, that would be the 10th and the 11th added together and divided by 2. Okay, so the 10th and the 11th. So looking at my table, here's the first 2 families. Now here is the first 6 families in those 2 groups there. And here's the first 10 families, 2 and 4, 6 and 4 is 10 families. So the 10th family is here. Okay, the first 2 families, the first 6 families, the first 10 families. The 10th family is here. So the 10th family have three children. 10th family have 3 children. And so the 11th family is in this group. That's the first 10. Now we're into the first 16. So the 11th family is here. The 11th family have 4 children. So we've got 10 and 11. The number of children in the 10th family and the number of is 3. The number of children in the 11th family is 4. I've got 3 and 4 is 7 over 2. So actually again, it gives me an average score using the median of 3.5 children. Okay, so and then the last one is the mode. The mode is the most common. So actually this is really easy with a frequency table or a frequency distribution table. It's going to be the one with the highest frequency, which is this one here. The highest frequency is 6 families have 4 children. So the mode is going to be 4 children, okay, because it's got the highest frequency. Okay, I hope that helps, and I'll talk to you again. The next video will be about grouped frequency tables.